I release, and I let go. We're already pretty well settled and centered in our seats. So just clearing our minds with a few deep breaths. Think of someone or a group who might be suffering or facing a challenge of some kind. See them in your mind's eye. And then reflect on the fact that just like you, just like me, they want to overcome the suffering and to be joyful. As our heart continues to open, we feel a sense of concern for the well-being of the person or the group that we're focusing on. And deep within our heart is the desire that they be free from suffering, free of this challenge or situation. And as our heart opens yet more, it radiates a bright orb of light. See that light just radiating forth from your heart. And the next time you inhale, take in that breath, imagine that the person who's suffering, the suffering is being drawn from their body as dark clouds and being dissolved by that love light that you sent out. And now as you exhale, imagine you're sending that person rays of light filled with your love, your compassion, your courage, your confidence, your strength, and your joy. See them as they truly are, freed of this issue, whole, radiant beings, just as we are. Now release the image and rest for just a moment in the silence and the feeling of joy, of connectedness. And when you're ready, take in another nice breath. Release it. Begin to move your fingers and toes. Open your eyes when you're comfortable to do so. Thank you, Jennifer. I love that. She makes all the difference. So So some of you may be surprised to see me today because Reverend Donna was supposed to be up here, and I know how much she really likes last Sundays because we've got the potluck, we thank our volunteers, we have all of this kind of closure of a month, and she so enjoys doing that. But she brought back a little visitor from the Unity People's Convention, and on Monday she called and asked if I might stand in for her. And of course, when she told me that her subject was to be the joy, I said, yeah, I can do that. You know, I like joy. It's one of my favorite things. And you all know from the last time I talked that I've been reading the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu's book, The Book of Joy. So, man, I had lots of fodder for this talk. And you know what happens to me when I have all this fodder? I get so many details. I get so engrossed in it. It's hard for me to get the wheat from the chaff, you know? So I decided this morning, after spending all this time and putting in 50 million notes, you know, Spirit is going to let me know exactly what needs to be said today. So we're going with it. There are just lots of statistics that support our being of joy. The Buddhists believe that joy is our natural state. We in Unity think joy is our natural state. It's our true nature. Love is our true nature. And is not joy part of love? Now think about this. Unhappy people tend to be more self-focused, complaining, I, me. And who wants to be around that? Happy people, on the other hand, are more sociable. We're flexible. We're creative. Happy people are able to take in and tolerate whatever ups and downs and frustrations may cross their paths. Now, wouldn't you prefer to be around a happy person? Wouldn't you prefer to be a happy person? Happy people do feel more joy. They tend to live longer. They have fewer health challenges. They don't complain. They just kind of go with the flow of it. And I think that happy people, people who are self-aware, and especially people who are on their spiritual path and know the truth of their being, I think that we tend to move through these challenges with a little more grace and ease. Don't you think so? Yeah. But given that our true nature is to be a happy person, and that our true nature is goodness, that is who we are at our core, there's a sad piece I have to tell you about. We have a set point on happy. Research has shown that we settle into a place, we might have a little change, you know, and that feels good, and that feels good. And then we tend to come back to where we were, our set point. Lottery winners. You've heard the stories about lottery winners. They win all this money, and they're so excited, and they have this great abundance, and the next thing you know, they're right back where they started from, their set point. Now, what research has found, we can change our set point, people. We can do something about it, okay? We know that we have it, but we can change it. So what research has found is that 50% of our happiness to that set point is determined by unchangeable factors like our genes and our temperament. The other half is determined by a combination of circumstances over which we may have limited control. So, the job that I've got today may be the one I need to keep until I can come around to something better for me. The thing that we really have the most control over is our attitudes and actions. It's all about the attitude. It's all about being self-aware, I think. And there are 3 factors that seem to have the greatest influence on increasing our happiness, and they are our ability to reframe a situation more positively, our ability to experience gratitude, and our choice to be kind and generous. We can do something about all of those things. As I was working with this, of course, I'm going from the Joy book, or the Book of Joy, and that has a heavy weight in the Buddhist tradition. So the Buddhists teach that there are 8 pillars of joy. I'm just going to tell you what they are. There's perspective, there's humility, humor, acceptance. Those 4 would be mind, pillars in the mind. And then there's forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. Those are heart pillars. I thought that was really interesting how that worked. Perspective is so important because it's how we see it is what we make it mean. And when we are faced with a challenge, if we are able to drop down there to acceptance and see, oh, this is what is, then we can use our perspective to say, okay, this is what is, but how can I see it differently? How can I use this to enhance my joy, to recall my joy? So perspective is about stepping back, taking a wider look, and reframing so that we see things. Driving. That's the example we always use when we're driving. The driver who cuts us off. I had one. I don't know where this guy came from. There was a fire truck as I was crossing an intersection. There was a fire truck trying to get out. So I pulled over to the right. The fire truck came out. I pulled back into traffic. And this man pulled up next to me, and he's blowing his horn, and he's blowing. I have no idea what I did to upset that guy. I rolled my window down. I thought, well, maybe he has something to tell me. What he had to tell me was not what I wanted to hear. So we have to be able to say, let that go. And I thought, well, I wonder what his problem is. Something's really bothering him, and it's not me. So we can't take it personally. What we do, I learned this from one of my early Unity teachers at Unity Village, Tom Thorpe, Reverend Tom Thorpe. He says, we bless them and send them on their way. I'm getting a lot better at that. When that happened, at other times, I might have gotten really angry. But when that happened, I just kind of pondered it for a while, and then I thought, well, whatever it is, it's his. And I kept on going. So the other 2 things of mind are humility and humor. Part of this, well, you get the humor part. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself. You've got to be able to laugh at situations. You've got to be able to lighten up and let it go. the humility part, just, I was thinking this morning, I will say about humility, but I was thinking this morning as I'm trying to pull this together, we got all these pieces parts, and it's like it was when I was in nursing school. We had to dissect a fetal pig. So that's anatomy. You can see all the pieces parts, but it's the physiology, the how it all works together. And you can't really discriminate one part's doing more than another part or different or whatever. So this morning I decided I was giving up the dissection. Humility is about remembering my humanity. The Dalai Lama, I bet if it was in that book one time, it was in there 100 times. I always see myself as one of the other humans. I see myself on the same level. I am not, the Dalai Lama is not more than, better than. The Dalai Lama is just another person out of 7 billion. And he says that in seeing himself this way, just as I see you guys, I know you guys are all my friends. I know that we're all on the same path. I know our interconnectedness. I know us as a whole, loving entity expressing as God. Because that's how God gets to express, and that's how God gets to experience. It's through us. So humility. The idea of forgiveness is tied up with compassion. And forgiveness, I'm going to kind of skip over forgiveness this time because next month we're going to be talking about, on the life wheel, we'll be dealing with family. And we're going to have a pretty big focus on forgiveness. So next month, I'm actually on the docket next month. I hope to bring in more, a deeper understanding about forgiveness and compassion and how they work together. So we need to be able to forgive, because what forgiveness does for us is it frees us from our past. And we all know as Unity people that this was a regular practice of Charles Fillmore. He did a forgiveness practice every day. As I remember it, at the end of the day, he would go through, he would review his day and forgive anyone, anything, himself, maybe, for any affront he might have felt. Gratitude is a biggie. Gratitude is the recognition of all that holds us in the web of life and all that has made it possible to have the life that we have the moment we are experiencing. Thanksgiving is a natural response to life and may be the only way to savor it. So if you want more joy, I'm just going to give you one hint here. If you want more joy, keep a gratitude list. People who keep gratitude lists, get this, they exercise more often. They have fewer physical symptoms. They feel better about their lives and are more positive about the week ahead. They report more vitality and optimism, greater life satisfaction, and lower levels of stress or depression. So, count your blessings. Treasure each day we're given. Compassion. Compassion is about remembering our connectedness. It's about moving from that self-centered I person to appreciate the other. And that's what we're here for. We really are here to serve each other on our paths. I love this. This is the first time I really kind of got it. You know what grok is? Anybody ever read Stranger in a Strange Land? Grok. That's knowing at the very depth of your being. Well, I kind of got grok this one. The Dalai Lama gives an example of the difference between empathy and compassion. Now, we know empathy is taking on the feeling of the other, feeling it in oneself as the other feels it. Well, he says, if we see a person who's being crushed by a rock, the goal is not to get under the rock and feel what they're feeling. It is to help remove the rock. So that's what compassion is. It's reaching out and helping our fellow humans. Generosity. Generosity is closely connected. Like I said, you really can't dissect these things apart from each other. They are so interconnected. It's so connected to compassion. And generosity, we pretty much learn by doing. The Dalai Lama often spoke of our innate spirit of generosity. My friends Bill and Cher Holton, who have a Unity online ministry, have identified, and you've heard me say this before, 7 core abilities. Well, one of our core abilities is a giving consciousness. So generosity is really important, and it's part of our DNA. I had this thought too. When you think of the countenance of a person who is self-centered and didn't have their happy pill today, and they are kind of complaining, what face do you see? You see kind of a down. You see a posture that may slump a little bit. But when you see the face of a generous, compassionate, joyful person, peaceful person, what do you see? I've never seen a picture of the Dalai Lama without some kind of a smile on his face. Desmond Tutu, Gandhi, even King, even Martin Luther King Jr. I don't remember him. He was not dour at all. They all model joy and peace, internal. So, a few facts about generosity. It was so important to our survival that the reward centers of our brain light up so strongly when we give as when we our brain centers light up as strongly when we give as when we receive, and sometimes more so. Now, where have you heard about that? That better to give than receive thing. Yeah. Well, I'm not really sure it's better, but I think you got to have both of them to be in the flow. Let's see, we already said generosity is associated with better health, longer life, and just thinking it. Now, we know this from our studies about imagination and unity. Just thinking about something, envisioning it, we get that brain reaction. We get that neuropeptide reaction. just thinking about generosity significantly increases, this one I didn't know, it increases the protective antibody, salivary immunoglobulin A, which helps our immune system. So give a little and get a little boost to your immune system. I have to say that I think our Reverend Donna is probably the greatest example and role model of this thing, this idea of generosity that comes to mind right now. People experience greater happiness when they spend money on others than when they spend it on themselves. Every time Reverend Donna takes a little trip, has a little fun, she goes into the gift shop and she comes back with little mementos for those of us who are with her on a regular basis. And it's just such a great model of what generosity really looks like. And it's not just about money. It's about service to others. It's in any way that we give. Volunteering. Okay, volunteers, we're having a meeting on Friday, right? Volunteering reduces the risk of death by 24%. And I'm just going to tell you, after our talk, all of these people in our church have lengthened their lives by the service they provide us. So I've kind of gone through all the pieces, parts of joy and some of the statistics. But here's the important thing. Another piece of the important thing is, just like love, if we're going to give love out, we got to be able to love what's in here first. The same is true with joy. If we're going to have it to share, we got to build it in us. So this is how you do it. Do you ever have a gray day? You know, you just kind of feel down, blah, and you're thinking, poor me, what am I going to do? Well, here's how to get a quick facelift. Let me see if I've got it here. A quick facelift. Doing this engages the muscles that release those feel-good hormones. It releases dopamine, the feel-good hormone, oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, serotonin, the happiness hormone, and endorphins that bring pain relief, the runner's high, and relaxation. My friends, the Holtons, call this a dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So when you take the pencil out and you really smile, you really get into it, imagine the extra dose you get. So smile. Oh, speaking of laughing, here's an idea. Remember Reverend Eileen's talk last week about play and the importance of play? Well, you might try this. Take a 5-minute laugh break every day. Keep a collection of jokes. You might have to talk to Reverend Donna about that. I know she has one. Okay? Keep a collection of jokes or pictures that always tickle your funny bone. Or you can try my little trick. Just go to YouTube and find something funny. I like the dogs and the cockatoos. especially the Frenchies, because I happen to have two great grand Frenchies. So there's that. And I love this one. I actually did this consciously on my recent trip to Virginia. I was in a minorly stressful situation visiting my sister-in-law, who I was concerned might be slipping a little bit in her dotage and needed a little relief. So I happened to have a friend in the same city as my sister-in-law. This friend always makes me laugh. So we went to lunch, and I laughed the whole afternoon and had what I needed to go back into the environment. So cultivate those friends who make you laugh. How many people in here are still in the workplace? Okay. Do you have those days and you just really don't want to go? Do you see it as a fun place, or do you see it as, oh, I've got to do it? You're going to be a whole lot happier. You're going to find more joy if you can just make it a game. Lighten up. See it as play. I learned that a long time ago when my daughter had enlisted in the Air Force, and she was going off to boot camp in San Antonio. Her dad told her, who had been through boot camp at Fort Gordon, Georgia, a few years before that, her dad told her, just make it a game, and you'll do fine. She did do fine. She served for 9 years. She came out of that experience with some fantastic memories and some wonderful friends who are still her friends today. And I guess she's been out for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. Anyway, find the fun in it, find the play in it, and turn it around. And if you're not able to do that, I say you either love it or you list it. So, yeah. This is my very favorite thing to do to bring joy. Dance. And I know some other people in here who like dance to bring joy. It's dance like mad. Dance like nobody's watching. And it's better if you do it where nobody can watch. Okay? Because when you get that music, going, it just goes through my body. Now I do use mellow music in the morning. I do a swim every morning as part of my exercise. Well, I noodle. I don't swim so much, but I noodle. I move around the water, and I listen to soft meditative music, and I flow with it. I just listen, and I take myself away from whatever, because I got the trees out there, I'm in nature, and I just flow with it. And that brings me a quiet, peaceful joy. And then in the afternoons, when I'm needing a little boost, then I go to XM, Carolina Shag, that's my favorite station. And I get loose to songs like, let's see, how do we want to do this? Twist and Shout. People here are old enough to remember Twist and Shout. You can really move to that. Twist and Shout, Shake a Tail Feather. Under the Boardwalk. So, and it works. It really does work. There's one other factoid that I want to leave you with. When we bring our joy to another, when we share our joy with another, and I actually think of an of an incident that had to do with Ken, and he didn't even know it. But after my trip, when I came back and I saw Ken and he was looking so good, it just brought me joy. And from that joy, somebody else was affected. It is good. The effect is good to the third separation. So I gave it to Cindy, Cindy gave it to Jennifer, Jennifer gave it to David, and on and on. It is, research proves that, okay? It bubbles on out. So, in closing, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for letting me have my experiments here, and let the joy bubble from you. It is in there. So thank you, guys. It's time for our blessing of tithes and gifts. See, our spirit of generosity, our giving consciousness, we get to practice every Sunday. And some of us are able to do it by actually putting something tangible into the basket here, and some of us are able to do it just by clicking on a button. And we are grateful because at Unity Church of Peace, we live in gratitude. So let us affirm our prayer together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.